You know, most of the difficult moments in life are obvious. Something ends, something breaks, something hurts. But there's another kind of moment that's harder to explain. When nothing is actually wrong and yet something still feels off. That's what I've been thinking about lately. I came back to Kirkegaard because he wrote a lot about this exact state. Not despair, not sadness, just a quiet dissatisfaction that doesn't have a clear cause. Life is fine, work is fine, relationships are fine, and somehow that's what makes it confusing. Kirkegaard believed this feeling was one of the most honest signals a person can have. He noticed that people often suffer more when their lives are comfortable but misaligned than when they're clearly struggling. Because when things are clearly bad, you know what you're reacting to. When things are fine, you start questioning yourself instead. Think about how this shows up. You finish a day that went smoothly, and instead of feeling satisfied, you feel oddly restless. You get what you wanted at some point, the job, the independence, the routine, and after a while the excitement fades faster than you expected. And then you start wondering if you're being ungrateful for even questioning it. Kirkegaard would say that's not ingratitude, that's awareness. He believed that many people live what he called the aesthetic life, not in an artistic sense, but in a surface sense. Life organized around what works, what's pleasant, what's socially acceptable, and that kind of life can function very well, but it doesn't always feel like yours. A lot of adults don't feel lost. They feel vaguely disconnected, like they're playing a role they agreed to before fully understanding themselves. And the discomfort isn't loud to force change. It just lingers. Here's where Kierkegaard gets interesting. He didn't think this feeling meant you needed to blow your life up. He wasn't advocating for dramatic exits or impulsive reinvention. He thought the problem was avoidance. Not avoiding responsibilities, but avoiding honest reflection. Staying busy enough that you never have to ask whether the life you're living actually expresses who you are. You can see this in small ways. Saying yes to plans you don't really care about because it's easier than explaining yourself. Staying in routines because they're familiar, even when they no longer feel meaningful. Telling yourself, this is just how adulthood is, without ever checking if that's true for you. Kirkegaard believed that the most important shifts in life don't start with action, they start with clarity. With the willingness to sit with discomfort, without immediately covering it up with productivity, distraction, or justification. That's hard to do, especially when life isn't actively pushing you. One idea of his that stayed with me is that despair isn't always dramatic. Sometimes despair looks like numbness, or constant mild restlessness, or the feeling that you're living slightly to the side of yourself. And the solution isn't to force passion, it's to become more honest. Honest about what energizes you, honest about what drains you, honest about what you're doing out of habit rather than choice. That kind of honesty doesn't demand immediate change. It just asks you to notice. I think that's why this feeling often shows up at night, when things slow down, when there's nothing urgent to respond to. The question isn't, is my life good enough? It's more like, does this life feel true? And that's a harder question to answer. Kirkegaard didn't believe everyone finds a single answer to that. He believed people return to the question at different points in their lives. Because you change, your values shift, what once felt right can quietly expire. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're alive. So if your life feels fine but not fully satisfying, maybe that's not a problem to solve quickly. Maybe it's a sign that you're ready to look a little deeper than comfort. Not to judge your life, just to understand it better. That's a thought I've been sitting with tonight. When life feels fine, it might be asking for honesty, not gratitude.